We are going to start our conference on building a future-ready workforce with Professor Dr. Manoj Choudhary. He is the Vice Chancellor at Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. Please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for him. Now I invite our panelists. So first of all, I would like to invite on stage Professor Jitesh Thakkar on stage. Please give a big round of applause. He is the Dean of Academics at Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. Please give a big round of applause for our panelist, Professor Jitesh Thakkar. Now I invite Mr. Sanjeev Garg on stage. He is the Secretary General at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, India. Please give a big round of applause for Mr. Sanjeev Garg, ladies and gentlemen. Now I invite our last panelist, Mr. Karan Sethi. Please give a big round of applause for Mr. Karan Sethi. He is the Senior Assistant Vice President at Invest India. Please give a big round of applause for all our panelists and our moderator, Professor Manoj Choudhary. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon and welcome to all at this important session at LogiMAT. As we know, the logistics sector is expanding significantly, and for any sector or any country to go on the path of development the way India is going, for any democratic country, it is always of the people, by the people, for the people. And therefore, which are the people who will make the logistics industry and the logistics sector what it should become, where it is destined to go, is the theme of this session. That is, how do we prepare human resources for this sector, what kind of skills are needed and so on. That is the outline of the session that we have. As all of us know, India is progressing very rapidly to become a Viksit Bharat. Infrastructure and logistics sector will play a very important role, led by PM Gati Shakti plan, along with national logistics policy and tremendous improvements that are happening all around us, whether creation of superior infrastructure or service delivery using digital means, technology means and so on. It is estimated that by 2027, 10 million, that is 1 crore additional jobs will be created in the logistics sector. Of course, these jobs are not unskilled jobs. They all need to be skilled jobs with a specific skill. And I believe that end of the session, we will have a better clarity and understanding about how we can do it, how we can create the people who will create the sector. Therefore, to begin with, would like to go to Dr. Karan from Invest India on his introductory remarks, and more particularly about how do we invest in building people, how do we invest in creating human resources. Dr. Singh.
Testing. Can you check? Thank you. Thank you, sir. And first of all, it's an absolute honor to be on this panel with esteemed, experienced gentlemen from the industry. I think I'll just take off from what Dr. Manoj said. I think we've all seen that in the last 1 decade, this government has laid a tremendous amount of emphasis on developing infrastructure. I think there's been a very clear focus that infrastructure is the backbone of progress. And if India is to evolve into a third largest economy in the next 5 years, infrastructure will play a critical role. I think what we did differently as the government was, first of all, focused programs such as Bharatmala, Sagarmala, Udan have been launched by the government with a clear focus of augmenting and developing world-class infrastructure. Secondly, what this government, I think, has done very differently in terms of developing infrastructure is that it's focused on developing a multimodal or an integrated infrastructure, which is extremely important. We always talk about, and this is a logistics classroom, so everyone talks about first mile, mid mile, last mile. And it is the efficiencies in this entire value chain which will drive an efficient supply chain system for the country. So I think from the point of view of the government, I think a lot of investment has happened. A lot of investment will continue to happen as per stats. I think we're expected to double our investment capex in the next 10 years, which was already very high in the last 10 years. And apart from that, just this thought process of integrating infrastructure, I think, is extremely fresh. Hence, the PM Gati Shakti program was also launched. So we feel that in the next 10 years, that will truly be a game changer in developing efficient and strong infrastructure in the country. Thank you.
Fantastic, Dr. Sethi. Now I request Mr. Sanjeev Garg, just as an introduction, he has worked in the Indian Railways for a long period of time and has led joint venture companies. Not only that, he is the Secretary General of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and therefore has a bird's eye view of what all is happening in the sector. So would like to request him for his introductory remarks and what do we think, where we are going, what can we do.
Thank you, Professor Choudhary. You very rightly pointed out that the logistics sector is going to expand at a very fast rate. Even though it looks like a contradiction that on the one hand, we want to reduce the cost of logistics in the country. Some people think that it should actually lead to reduction in the demand for logistics trained professionals. But that is not so, because we are moving fast to a 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 20 trillion, etc. economy. So in absolute terms, the demand for logistics professionals is going to increase manifold, even though in percentage terms, as we start becoming more efficient, the overall percentage cost of logistics as part of GDP may come down. But the demand for logistics professionals in absolute terms will increase manifold. And that is where all of us have to work hard to produce well-trained, good quality logistics professionals. Till now, most of the private institutes and universities were working on providing courses and training in logistics area. But now we are very happy to find, for instance, Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. They are running several courses for logistics professionals, and similarly some other government, state and central universities have taken up this challenge. So therefore, we from the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, we are a 100-year-old institute. So we are also a facilitator, and we also conduct some training programs for logistics professionals. So it's very good news for all of us that not only the demand for logistics professionals is going to go up manifold several times, but simultaneously new institutes have come up who will now cater to this requirement for training and providing educational backup for logistics professionals. And I think foremost among them, I consider Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya as the leader. Although it is a new, I would call it a startup only, but they are moving very fast. And because they are aligned with the Ministry of Railways, which itself is the biggest logistics organization in the country. So with the backup of the Ministry of Railways, Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya should certainly provide the kind of impetus that we are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garg. Now we move to Professor Jitesh Thakkar. He himself is a practitioner, of course, a colleague at our university, but he has worked in IIT Kharagpur for almost close to a decade in the supply chain and operations research in many of these areas. So maybe Professor Jitesh, you can introductory comments, and particularly would like to also throw some light on the kind of skills that you believe are the ones that people have been requesting you to conduct programs on and so on.
Thank you, sir. So rightly other panelists mentioned that we have a very big mandate to cover, and under the dynamic leadership of Professor Manoj Choudhary, who has a vast industry experience, and then he was a professor at IIT Jodhpur, and now he is helping us to build this university. We are really growing very fast. So we started with couple of programs in railway, and now we are expanding our wings into multimodal transportation, maritime, shipment, and metro rail operations and aviation sector. So certainly when we have a very big mandate of 100 lakh crore, that is part of PM Gati Shakti master plan at one side. On the other side, we can see as a part of this expo that lot of developments are there. My curiosity was continuously under challenge when I had seen so much of automation and the kind of say robotics and all that. So what kind of role in this AI era, new role that has to be defined for the human workforce, and that is where Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya offers the interdisciplinary program, which includes the core courses as well as some of the 21st century desired skill, so that human resource like products does not become absolute and they have greater adaptability and flexibility to meet the emerging demands of the industry. So I think data analytics, certainly we all agree that AI ML, but there are certain courses like design thinking, operations research, mathematics for multimodal transportation we are offering, that builds their skill which would be needed for many years to come. So I think that is my view on this.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Thakkar. As all of us know, we are all in 21st century, and we rightly believe, which our Honorable Prime Minister reiterates quite often, we all believe, and 140 crore Indians have a dream to make India as a Viksit Bharat. We believe 21st century is our century. We believe that led by missions, each mission is to propel India to the next level, whether Invest India, Skill India, Digital India, Startup India, Skill India, right? Each of this mission is for taking India forward. 21st century, as we also remarked yesterday, one critical thing in 21st century is changing technology landscape every 3, 4, 5 years. And yesterday we discussed a famous quotation by Toppler that illiterates of the 21st century are not those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. And therefore, if we look in logistics sector today, we have 28 million people in India working in the sector currently. 2.8 crore people working already, additional 1 crore will be added. So how do we train these people, 2.8 crore people, and upgrade their skills so that they will remain relevant and they will contribute more to the economy? And that is my next question on kind of skills that are needed to train people in the field. What we should do to train people is what I will go to Dr. Karan for this question. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj. I'll be very honest, I'm not particularly from the field,
Sure.
but I think like sir mentioned, fields like data analytics, I think apart from that, the other thing that everyone has to pay attention to, and I sort of briefly mentioned, is the whole multimodal nature that we're sort of looking at. I think there has to be a holistic view that everyone needs to take in terms of infrastructure. It's never about road versus rail. It's about using road, rail, and ship in the most efficient manner, so that the overall cost of logistics comes down. And another leg that I'll sort of like to mention about, there are a lot of leading industrial players where, hey, there are wonderful startups. There are companies like Adverb, which are homegrown Indian companies, which are leading the way in terms of revolutionizing logistics. I was speaking to the founder of Adverb, and it's heartening to know that they are actually supplying robots to Germany. So I think we all can take a lot of heart that India is not that far behind. Yes, we have a lot to catch up to, but we have talent, we have those skills. And I think the right kind of impetus, which is being provided by all the gentlemen here, will go a long way. And I think a lot of partnership can also be done with the industry. I think a lot of big names today have their own training centers. I think everyone is realizing that upskilling, or rather unlearning and relearning, is an important point. So I would encourage, I think, the industry, the government agencies, everyone to come together, because at the end, the industry is the user, right? So I think I would really encourage everyone to sort of come together, design these programs. Maybe we can have founders of these companies to give guest lectures, etc. I don't know, sir, if that's already happening, but I would like to mention more on the modus operandi on how this can be achieved. I think the government and the industry can really work together towards a wonderful change that this sector is experiencing today. Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's very, very wonderful points that you raised. One thing that we all know, that India is changing fast, is not merely in what we are doing, but how we are doing. The whole mindset change that our Prime Minister always talks, that minds तो Indians के पास में है, हम सबके पास में, हम mindset कैसे करें so that we can do much more. Gati Shakti plan is all about, PM Gati Shakti plan is all about building synergies and collaborations and breaking silos between ministries. And same is the case that we want to do. As the one who is seeing the industry through in and out, Mr. Garg, I would request you to throw a light on how can universities or partnerships that we can build upon synergies between industries, academia and others to train this large number of workforce. We know industry people cannot take leave like 2 years from industry and do a upgradation of a skill. But what can we do in a part-time mode or any mode? What is your thought process on continuous skill improvement of the industry that we can do? Mr. Garg.
I think the model that will have to be followed is that, if you recall 30, 40 years ago, when management and computers came, particularly computers, as even management for that matter, when it became evident that people needed to upgrade their skills in the field of management as well as computer learning. So you had an organization called Computer Society of India, CSI, which started, organizing computer familiarization courses all over the country. And people who had absolutely no idea of what computers were, they started attending those classes, they familiarized themselves, and people started learning the basic computer languages, whether it was C++ or any, basic language, Fortran, something which we don't hear of today. So basically, I think, although logistics is not a rocket science, it's something that very often you would say common sense is there mostly into logistics, but nevertheless, over time, some aspects have, developed and need to be taught. So there are a large number of now organizations, both in the private and government and joint sectors, which have come up and now are offering courses for working executives to take up. Some of them are, give examples of the rail related organizations. Just as an example, you have the Institute of Rail Transport. There's another organization called Center for Transportation Research and Management. In CILT, that Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, we are conducting various programs. Similarly, now Gati Shakti University, we've already talked about. A lot of management institutes now are into this, job, and so are a large number of private universities. So, and when I move into the logistics field, I meet people, I find many of them are indeed upgrading their logistics related skills so that, they become more relevant to the logistics sector and its requirements of today. So it's a good development, and the government is obviously, encouraging it, because they came out with a concept of the national logistics policy in the year 2022. So the logistics policy also encourages the imparting of training in the area of logistics. So earlier there was no concept of a logistics policy. So I mean, just 2 years back, this has come before us. So that also is an indication that the government is going all out for developing the skills and the backup for logisticians, so to speak, to come up. And the thousands and lakhs of crores worth projects which are being inaugurated or foundation stones being laid off in the infrastructure sector, they will all need logistics professionals to man them, to run them. And that is why I think, recognizing that need, all these institutions have got on to the bandwagon for training logistics professionals. You have a logistics skill council under the Ministry of Skill Development, and they are conducting training programs for very basic kind of logistics professionals, whether it is truck drivers or warehousing workers, etc. So the Logistics Skill Council is conducting these programs. Then you have some of the ITIs, in Indian Technical Institutes, not the IITs, ITIs. They are also got into this business of providing training at the basic level for logistics professionals. Similarly, for truck drivers, I mean, truck drivers are something which initially people just thought that if you have a driving license, you can become a truck driver. But no longer so. And some basic training also is required for a truck driver, so that it causes less accidents on the road. So there is a national road safety council also, and there are some other associations of this kind, ITWA, All India Truck Owners Association, etc. So all of them are into the business of encouraging the professionals. Another organization is AMTOI, AMTOI. So Multimodal Transport Association of India, something like that. So all of them have got into this business, and I'm sure that in the next 5 years we'll have an explosion in the number of professionals coming, and nobody should worry. There'll be jobs for everybody because the sector is growing. So and because the sector is growing, it needs more people. So I think we are moving in the right direction. Thank you.
No, very, very pertinent and wonderful comments, Mr. Garg. Thank you. One thing that we know, in today's world, any organization, whether startup, industry, academia, government, we are successful only and only when we listen to our stakeholders. We can no longer work based upon what we like. We should always do based upon what our stakeholders need. In that context, I would like to maybe ask Professor Thakkar, what should universities do to reorient and listen more to the stakeholders and devise programs and training skilling mechanisms considering stakeholder as a primary input?
Yes, thank you, sir. Quite an enthusiastic picture is shared by our respected panelists. And rightly, as Professor Choudhary shared, that we need to train more than 2.8 crore. Logistics industry is next to agriculture industry in India. Now, certainly customer centricity and client centric approach is desired across all the industry. And I never see educational industry as an exception. It is a service industry. The way there is an healthcare industry, the way there is an hospitality, same way, this is also a service industry. For many years, this notion was missing, and universities believed that we will just produce and not bother about the recipients or the desiring industries, and that is where employability gap is created. At Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya, under the leadership of our Vice Chancellor, sir, we are always trying to see that product passes through three stages. Number one is the design stage, second is the process, and final is the delivery. Same applies to our student as a product. So we design the curriculum by involving the concerned industry or the industry partners, and we receive their enough inputs without compromising with the academic rigor expected. So our students, they study the curriculum exactly what is being taught at IITs and other, but we have customized the same curriculum for the sectoral needs, and that is where at the design stage quality is ensured. Second, we assure the quality at the process stage. So as a rule of thumb, we ensure 30 to 40% courses to be taught by industry experts, and they bring lot of field experience and their say practical insights. That is where students are groomed for the industry requirements are made, and they are made industry ready. And finally at the delivery stage, they go through, in order to enhance their exposure to the practical life, they go through 3 dedicated internship. So even if while going through the regular courses, by chance they could not visualize, even though many insights are shared, then they have an opportunity, enough opportunity through 3 internship to visualize what is being covered, what has been taught by the experts. And we believe that finally when they come to the last stage and really they interact with the industry as a part of placement drive, really we are receiving extremely good response from the industry. Even this year it is just February, we have received more than 80 companies, they have visited, there is a footfall. And for the university, which is just 14 months old, I think this is quite remarkable. So both way it justifies, like Sri Sanjay Varghji said that this sector is booming. So yes, there are a lot of takers, they are just looking for the good products, good employable students, and that is where GSV satisfies their needs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One of another trait, and I just reminded of a famous quotation by Mark Twain, that man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. What that means is that in a fast changing world, if we are not able to upskill ourselves every single day, we are just waiting. We are just waiting to be laid off. We are just waiting to be irrelevant. And that is where I am extremely happy that Invest India, being one of the driving force behind LogiMAT 2024, LogiMAT did a partnership with Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya as a knowledge partner on what we can drive. And its first show itself, this is where we see many students, we are trying to make sure that we work with the industry. We try to define what skills are needed. We try to define the courses, and that is where I really commend the role of Invest India, that investing into India, investing into the potential of India. It's not about sectors, it is not about areas. It is, the basic theme is investing in India, right? And would like to have a concluding remark from each of the panelists on what they think as 1, 2, 4 lines on what we can really do going forward, different than what we have been doing so far, because we have to look at innovation in every single thing that we do. So would like to request to Dr. Karan, in terms of our approach in education through Invest India, what can we do differently? In skilling, what can we do differently? In industry academia collaboration, what can we do differently? Any specific comment that you have?
Thank you, sir. And thank you for applauding the efforts of the team. I think, like you said, sir, times are changing. So I think 2 points here: closer collaboration with the industry, and we'll have to keep an open mind. As students, we're always asked to keep an open mind. I think we'll have to do that because, I mean, if I look at just the last 5 years, our trains have changed. Now we have Vande Bharat trains. Our ship vessels are changing because we're moving to cleaner fuels. We're moving towards efficiency. We're slowly going to probably move towards green hydrogen and other means as well. our basic way of even collecting our tolls on the highways is changing. So the entire ecosystem is changing and changing at a very, very rapid pace. So I think we'll all have to be conscious today that the books or the material will probably have to change very, very dynamically, maybe even every year, you know. And like Sir said, I think this particularly is a sector which is driven by the government, by the ministries that we have. So I think a very, very close collaboration between the government, the education institutes, the initiatives, and the industry is needed in order to keep us ahead of the curve. Those are my concluding remarks. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Garg, your concluding comments on the topic?
Yeah, I mean, I have some words for the youngsters who are aspiring to join the logistics sector. Very often, I think the expectations of the youngsters when they go in for placement agencies or for fresh jobs, they seem to be extraordinarily high regarding the initial pay packages. Unfortunately, in the logistics sector, the starting pay packages are not very high. But that should not in any way dishearten or discourage, because uh, subsequently the acceleration in the pay packages is very high, and by the time people reach the middle management level, their pay packages, I would say, are much better than comparable ones in other industries. So there is a difference in the how the pay packages begin and they end. So therefore, the youngsters should not feel that there is something wrong in the logistics sector, and that is why the pay packages are low and they will always remain low. No, that is not the case. I think it is a historical kind of trend that the initial pay packages are not very high compared to, and they are probably comparing it with some of the top management institutes. That again, I think, is a wrong comparison. So therefore, because I am interacting with lots of professionals in large number of logistics organizations, people who have put in, let's say, 15, 20 years, I mean, their pay packages, in my opinion, are mind-boggling. So therefore, and they all started at a fairly low level. So some people I know, they just started as at a clerical level, for instance, and now they are walking away with huge pay packages. So therefore, in the private sector, sky is the limit, and don't get foxed or don't get carried away or don't feel disappointed in case the initial pay packages are low. Ultimately, what will speak is the kind of work that you put in, because everywhere, whether it is government or public sector or private sector, it is the person's work that speaks, nothing else. So if a person is hardworking, that person is surely going to go up. So that is my take for people who feel that the pay packages in logistics sector are not very good.
Maybe quick one or two lines.
There are only two critical dimensions that can help the university to grow. Any university, industry driven and innovation led, and this is the vision of Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. Thank you.
So we had a very wonderful discussion with all the three panelists. To conclude, logistics industry is booming, the sector is booming. There is a tremendous need to not only upskill 2.8 crore people working in the sector, but additional 1 crore jobs that will be added. So we have to train. There is a big challenge before us, but industry, government, academia can work together and we can do a lot of things. I am reminded as a concluding note of a quotation by Nobel laureate Ravikanth Tagore, that is, you cannot cross the sea. You cannot cross the sea by merely standing and staring at water. we have to take steps. We cannot simply think things will happen on their own. We have to make things happen. Thank you so much.
Please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful and knowledgeable session. Now I would like to invite Ms. Radhika from Messe, Stuttgart, India on stage to felicitate our panelist. So please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for her. And I would request Ms. Radhika to felicitate Mr. Sanjeev Garg. Please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Sanjeev Garg, Secretary General at the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport India. Please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I request Ms. Radhika to please felicitate Professor Thakur, Dean of Academics at GSV at Gati, Shakti, Vishwavidyalaya. Please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Professor Jitesh Thakur. I request ma'am to please felicitate our moderator, Professor Manoj Choudhary, Vice Chancellor at Gati, Shakti, Vishwavidyalaya. Please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our moderator. And Mr. Karan Sethi, your trophy is due with us because you're joining with us in next session. So thank you so much for joining us. It was really a very wonderful session. Please give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful session. I request you to please stay here for the group photograph.